Welcome, welcome. It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to this special luncheon celebration of International Women's Day. I'm Larry Doris, and as a site leader of Agilent Technologies, I'm honored to be here with you today. International Women's Day, celebrated annually on March 8th, is a global day recognizing social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. It also serves as a call to action for accelerating gender parity. This day has a rich history originating in the early 20th century as part of the labor and voting rights movements. Today, it is a powerful reminder of the progress we have made and the work that still lies ahead to achieve true gender parity. We are delighted to co-sponsor this event with the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce. And we're honored to have the Chamber's esteemed President and CEO, Kristen Miller, as our featured speaker. Following Kristen's address, Kristen will moderate an engaging panel discussion with some of our region's most prominent leaders.
Thanks.
You're welcome. We got paid for that. Our panel participants will be Nina Green, Carolina Zapata, from Agilent Technologies, Melissa Lallam from LinkedIn, and also Lorena Hernandez. Where's Lorena?
Presumably on her way.
She's on her way, okay. Lorena Hernandez is a recent technical education graduate. This luncheon is a wonderful opportunity for local leaders and employees to come together, share insights, and celebrate the achievements of women in our community. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to the Women at Agilent Committee. Cedra Valdez, where's Cedra? She's in the back probably somewhere, Cedra Valdez. Sima Nazemzadeh, she's sitting right there. Karen Bobo, Karen, thank you. Juliana Fredel, where's Juliana?
She's in Peru.
Pardon?
Peru.
Okay, I guess she's not gonna be able to participate today. And Carly Richardson, is Carly here? She's out of office. Okay, I want to thank them for their dedication and hard work in organizing this event. I also want to thank Mike Watling, who will be our Master of Ceremonies today. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of several distinguished women leaders here and elected officials representing local business, education, healthcare, and economic development. I also want to thank and recognize our elected Carpinteria City Council members, Carpinteria Mayor Natalia Ellerton. Natalia. And Vice Mayor Monica Solorzano. Monica, thank you for being here, and thank you all for your support and participation. Our work, it's great, appreciated. Before I turn it over to Mike, I'd like to share a personal story that has stayed with me over the years. A few years back, I got a privilege of joining a Women at Agilent committee meeting. During the discussion, some of the women leaders shared with me their experiences of being taught to be nice as little girls. They spoke about how this expectation often followed them in into their professional lives, and where they had to consciously fight the impulse to always be accommodating in order to lead effectively. The story resonated deeply with me, and it highlights common challenges many women face in the workplace. It underscores the importance of creating an environment where women feel empowered to lead authentically and assertively without the burden of outdated social expectations. So I wanted to quote Michelle Obama, who once said, quote, "No country can ever truly flourish if it stifles the potential of its women and deprives itself of the contribution of half of its citizens." She also said, "There's no limit to what we, as women, can accomplish." These quotes perfectly encapsulate the spirit of today's event and the potential within each of us to drive change and make a difference. And when I say each of us, it means all of us. Additionally, according to the Global Gender Gap Report 2024, the global gender gap has been closed by 68.6%. While it appears to be a significant achievement, it also reminds us that there's still much work to be done to achieve full gender parity. Finally, I want to express my deepest gratitude to Kristen Miller for accepting our invitation to join us today. Some of you may know that I've been on the board with the Chamber of Commerce for a number of years. And from personal experience, I can tell you that Kristen is a force in shaping our community. You probably have seen her talk from subjects like energy reliability for our manufacturing technology companies here in the region, promoting hospitality and tourism. You may have seen her in some of the videos on TV promoting that. Affordable housing, workforce development, these are major topics and major challenges for our community. And I want to thank Kristen for being an advocate and a leader in our community and shaping the future for us. We're also grateful to the Santa Barbara South Coast Chamber of Commerce team because they work with us in collaboration in making this event possible. So thank you for all being here. I hope you find today's discussion inspiring and empowering. Now we'll turn it over to Mike Watling, who will be our Master of Ceremonies for the rest of this event.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Mike Watling. I'm the Director of Technical Operations here at Agilent Carpinteria, and I'd like to welcome our guests from the community here. Today, we gather to celebrate International Women's Day and Women's History Month, a time dedicated to honoring the remarkable achievements and contributions of women throughout history and present day. In the field of biotechnology, we are privileged to witness the groundbreaking work of women right here at Agilent, who are pushing the boundaries of science and innovation. Their dedication, resilience, and brilliance inspires us all and paves the way for future generations. As we listen to our esteemed guest, Kristen Miller, who will share her journey and insights on leadership, growth, and women in business, and a panel of distinguished speakers, let us reflect on the progress we have made and the work that still lies ahead. Let us commit to fostering an inclusive environment where every woman can thrive and reach her full potential. We hope today sparks meaningful conversations, new connections, valuable takeaways that you can bring back to your own careers and communities. With that, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Kristen Miller. Kristen leads the Chamber as President and CEO with over 25 years of experience. Under her leadership, the Chamber has been a catalyst for business, running robust public policy and economic development programs. She has continued her professional education with extensive training in visitor services, destination marketing, economic development, community relations, and all this since her degree from New York University. She serves on several local boards, including Santa Barbara County Workforce Development Board, Housing Trust Fund of Santa Barbara County, Visit Santa Barbara, Goleta Valley Cottage Hospital Foundation, Reach Central Coast Board, Salvation Army, and UCSB Economic Forecast Project. Please join me in welcoming Kristen Miller.
Thank you so much, Mike, and thank you, Larry, for the great introduction, for hosting us here today. I have to say, this is exciting. I've been working in community-oriented business settings for a long time and running a business-focused organization for 22 years, and yet I've never really done anything quite like this before, given remarks around International Women's Day. Throughout my career, I have been adamant about supporting women's issues, and I haven't done much adapting to a male-dominated culture. As a leader, I have not led with pro-woman agenda, but now, as I'm entering what I've called my third act, I do feel the need to step out in front on issues related to women in business and to tell that part of my story. I'm definitely a businesswoman now, but I started out in and was raised in the arts. And in theater productions, there are often 4 acts. So the metaphor in my life is that I'm entering my third act, scene change, plot twist, dramatic revelation. My kids are grown. The youngest is 20 and moving to Hawaii. The oldest is 21, moving home from college to start her career, her own family, and her life. That 21-year-old is named Olivia, and she's graduating with an honors degree in interior design. She wants to create environments that shape our lives. She's been so good about not focusing too specifically on what she wants to do for her career after graduation, but instead has a direction, designing for Disney, designing for film sets, working in historic preservation. She's also a huge fan of Amber Lewis. Do you all know Amber Lewis? And one day sees herself having her own design business with a line of furniture and materials. Her favorite class in college one year was materials. When I was in business in New York City, it was the business of the arts, surrounded by performing artists. Then in Corning, New York, and here, I'm surrounded by scientists and engineers. Here, specifically in Goleta, for many years, I was part of a movement to include young girls in STEM education, to remove the stigma that girls aren't good at math, women aren't engineers, and scientists are all white men in lab coats. Sorry, Larry. I hope the young people in the back today hear me talk about this and say, what the heck is she talking about? We have indeed come a long way towards educating girls in STEM, creating pathways for women in engineering and technology. Agilent, the host of our gathering today, is a shining example of workforce innovation in demonstrated action. I've laughed and giggled a little bit at the fact that while I was working hard at moving our community toward these goals for women in science, both of my children, the girl and the boy, were growing up about as far away from that topic as you can get. It was funny. I would say my kids went to DP, Dos Pueblos High, and an excited colleague would say, "Ooh, in that engineering program?" And I would say, "No, they're in theater." Those kids will be fine. They're growing up. I'm entering my third act. Part of defining my North Star for this next part of the journey is to be like Olivia. Focus on a category of work, but let the path unfold before me to guide the specifics of exactly what I'll do and how I'll do it. By the way, on that Amber Lewis thing, did you hear she's opening a shop in Montecito? Okay. Synchronicity. I think a lot about the future of women in the workplace, women in business, and women in leadership. I can't think about the future without understanding the past. And in the spirit of my daughter's future as a woman in the business world, I think about what I want to say to professional women and the young women here today. What story do I want to tell? In order to talk about women leaders, women in business, and women's issues, I'm compelled to go all the way back in time and talk about my mother. She was an interesting character. Most people would describe her as a strong woman, and she absolutely described herself as a feminist. But just like the rest of us, she didn't fit neatly into any of those boxes. No one-size-fits-all description of mother or feminist or teacher or lover. She didn't march obediently into any of the described categories of life. When I think of her in my early childhood, pre-kindergarten, I remember sitting at the top of the stairs of our split-level cul-de-sac home in the 70s in Atlanta. And I sat in the morning at the top of the stairs waiting for her to say goodbye to me on her way to work while I was getting picked up for my carpool ride. And I remember so distinctly the sound, hearing the click, click, click from the heels of her shoes coming across the linoleum of the kitchen floor. But now for the visual for all of you, she had on big, round, wire-frame glasses. Her hair was tied back in a silk scarf. She may have even had on makeup back then, which is significant now because soon after she moved my sisters and I from Atlanta to the backwoods panhandle of Florida. And there, she made the conscious decision to defy societal norms, refusing to wear makeup, wearing only chukka boots on her feet, pants, never a skirt. She cut her hair herself, never going to a salon again. This was tricky for a girly girl like me. I wanted sequins and tulle and permanence and lipstick. All I wanted was to wear pink, and all she wanted was for me to be Joan Baez. The young girls in the back are like, who? This conundrum became symbolic of a larger issue, that issue that so much of the women's movement was intended to give women a wide variety of choices to be whoever they want to be, not to force all women into a chukka-boot, braless society where we act a little more like men. The sisterhood of women was intended to accept all comers, embrace our diversity, not denounce everything that had once been feminine. I came home from my Florida elementary school one day and innocently told a story about a presentation that was made to the class encouraging the boys to sign up for baseball. I mentioned that a handout was given to the boys in the class. This sent my mother through the roof. The next day she marched into the school angrily, wrote letters to the editor of the newspaper, showed up at meetings to protest, eventually forcing the school district to make the teams co-ed. I was proud of her until I realized, and she made it very clear, you know you have to play now, right? What? I said, I have absolutely no interest in baseball or any other sport. May I please? I'll be a cheerleader. Can I twirl a baton? Absolutely not, she said. You will get your butt on that field and throw a ball with the boys, otherwise I look bad. I remember the hours of standing in the outfield with a glove in one hand, a dandelion in the other, staring at the sky. At my first real game, my father was standing by the fence near the outfield and he called me over. Hey, Poopsie, come here. I strolled over And he said, when that ball comes at you, you just let it hit the ground and then pick it up afterwards. You don't want it hitting your pretty face. Huh. Somehow, I was now caught between two worlds. My dad had 7 daughters, no sons. The dichotomy between my parents' expectations of me was pronounced. My dad thought that girls should wear dresses and have long hair, and boys should wear collared shirts and have short hair. I asked him once, why was he so against boys with ponytails? And he explained so clearly, when I see someone walking towards me, I want to be able to tell right away if it's a boy or a girl. I said, why? He said, because that tells me how to treat them, what to say, what to expect. This also did not seem right to me, but honestly, it didn't seem wrong. I'd been taught not to judge people by how they look, but I'd also been taught that women deserve a certain genteel respect because they're women. We're bearers of the heart and soul of humanity, which I guess is the summary of what I've been trying to figure out ever since. My mother taught me the history of both civil rights and women's rights and gave me a firm background to support my future life in leadership. And I'm so grateful for that. That background allowed me to dream as a youngster. Should I be president of the United States, minister of a church, CEO of a company, pilot in the Air Force, or a corporate lawyer in a big city? None of which I had seen modeled for me. I just assumed because I hadn't seen it or it hadn't been done before, it could happen, it would happen. It's that glass half full side of my personality which helped to form my views, including my awareness that women continue to struggle for a variety of rights in a multitude of ways, but I'm also aware of how far we've come. There's still an imbalance of women in business leadership positions in our country, but pay equity has gotten better. There are certainly more women in CEO offices and boardrooms, and here in California, in government. I'm convinced and excited about the concepts put forward by several big thinkers and writers, including Richard Florida, who explained that the changing nature of work, our communities, our government, and the way we communicate means we are facing a future that relies heavily on workers and leaders whose skill sets amplify collaboration, intuition, cooperation, human-based insights over technological triumphs, which tend to be characteristics found most prominently in women. In the past, when the highest skill set needed was leadership through dominance, persuasion, oration, self-confidence, and sometimes a little bit of shaming, men were naturally and organically inclined to rise to the top. My generation was sent quite a bit of mixed messages. The 70s and 80s were, let's just call it chaotic. But since somewhere in the 90s, it seemed to me that we sorted it out pretty well. We have at times risen above the chaos, the noise, and the constant judgment. I mean, look at this room today. A diverse group of women from a variety of generations, all having very different experiences. But somehow we're here together today to focus around International Women's Day. Well, let's focus on the things that unite us and acknowledge our common themes. There was a moment in recent history when women felt united by a common theme. See if you remember this one. When the actress America Ferrera gave the speech in the Barbie movie. I was sitting in that movie theater, one of the last times my daughter and I went to a movie together. We were both wearing pink. I sat there in the dark with tears streaming down my face. And this was before she even did the speech. I was crying. I was having a moment, as they say, because it was dawning on me that I had done a lot of what I wanted to do, risen above the chaos, blocked out the noise, sorted the mixed messages, and raised a daughter who was living in her dream house with a healthy relationship to work, boys, her sexuality, and her future as a mother. I was very proud of myself, perhaps the way my mother felt about me at times. But then that speech comes, and it just melted us down to our core. because the character in the movie says some very basic things that made us all feel heard and seen in a very clear way. I'm not going to quote that speech or play you a clip, but I'm going to give you a little bit of my personal version that goes something like this. Make a lot of money so you can support yourself independently, but don't flaunt it or appear too strong, and don't stay single too long because it makes men and frankly everyone a little nervous. Put yourself together, look good, but make it seem like it just happened naturally. You didn't try, you don't really care about that. Be the nurturer and compassionate caregiver to every single person under the sun. Your family, your friends, your coworkers, and the world. But set your boundaries and protect yourself because it's your fault if you get hurt, burnt out, or run down and depleted. Be skinny, but be voluptuous. Be a leader, but please don't be a bitch. And speak up, but don't talk so much. Ugh. This is my version of the speech, and I want you to all make your own. Do it. How many times in your life have you been expected to be many conflicting things at once, regardless of your desires, your temperament, your true nature? Of course, I realize a lot of groups of people could make this same complaint, haunted by mixed messages and conflicting judgments. Men, too. Certainly people of color, perhaps our youth. But it's been my experience that women have the heaviest burden of judgment, impossible standards, strict rules, and proverbial tightropes to walk. Why? Because we're women. We actually have immense power. And the times we have truly risen together have been powerful. And when we rise again, it's going to scare the crap out of some people. Speaking of scared, I can't decide if it's scarier to do a speech like this, to talk about women in business in a very personal way, in front of a group of strangers, or in front of so many of you who I know. And you know me too, in some ways. Many of you know that I love fashion and I rent a lot of my clothes. I was an early adopter of Rent the Runway. When I'm not renting a gown or a designer dress for a business event, I get my style from local boutiques, from local business women owners. But last year, during Women's History Month, I got an email from the CEO of Rent the Runway, Jen Hyman. I'm sure she was writing that just to me. And she said, several weeks ago, I gave birth to my third baby and received more praise and affirmation than when I took Rent the Runway public. Only one of 30 women to do so in history. While I appreciate the love of my community, it's a lot easier to give birth than to become the 30th female founder CEO to take a company public. She goes on to say that we celebrate women more for personal accomplishments than for professional ones. She opines that this matters because promoting women's accomplishments is critical to our continued workplace advancement. Historical performance is a prerequisite, yes, but as you get more senior in an organization, the more you need a community of people singing your praises to get to the next level. I had not thought of this. She is right. She concludes that success is often based on how we storytell about ourselves and others, not just our performance. By promoting each other and learning to share our professional accomplishments as easily as we would share our personal achievements, we change the culture from shaming women for showing off and creating a culture where women's laudable achievements are recognized and celebrated as often as men's. International Women's Day can be our moment to rise, to tell our stories, to promote each other, to point out that there is a historical bias against us, that leading, bossing, being outspoken, and God forbid controversial is not the expected role of women, but is so necessary if we are to evolve the world into a better place, where the energy and creativity of everyone is harnessed and celebrated. Our little corner of the world here in Techtopia, is a shining example of rising together and promoting each other. For many years, we have shown a light on the accomplishments of women in this region, and it reflects an exuberant culture here. Women in tech, women in business, women in leadership. We've done this well. Many of you do it every day. We've done it differently. I wish we could say it's just differently. We're just different, men and women. But I cannot leave it there and not point out the shadow side that still exists in this story, here at home and certainly globally. We have come a long way, but in my experience, there's still an underlying primal disadvantage to being a woman, and that's one aspect, and that is our personal safety. We've come so far, but it still creates an unlevel playing field for women because of the uncertainty of our safety. We're less safe than we should be. I spend a lot of time talking to women and convincing them to recognize and take action when they are not safe. My goal is to change the way we think so that women can learn to recognize that slim line that separates them from being polite, being nice, giving someone a chance, and thinking, well, maybe I'm overreacting. There's another great book, The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker, that all women should read. Or just hear me say this today. Your fear, your gut feeling that something is off, is the natural order of a perfect universe telling you that something is off. You are in danger. Maslow's hierarchy of needs says that we must have the following in order to perform at our highest level of intelligence and creativity. Basic physiological needs, and then in order to move up to the highest levels of happiness and fulfillment, safety. While we, the women in this room, live in the most sophisticated democracy in the world, and in many systems of society, we're getting better at recognizing and protecting us, we still face the reality of teaching our daughters how to live in an inherently dangerous world. You heard about my daughter and son. Both got pre-independence lessons from me about what to expect in the real world and how to protect themselves. But it was noticeable to me that my daughter got detailed lessons in how to be safe in the world on her own in a different way. I taught her to be strong and to protect herself, not because it was her style and I was helping her be herself, but because being a woman, she has to be hyper aware and protect herself. Her safety is not a given. I was honestly almost embarrassed to have to tell her this. I raised her in a bubble in Goleta, but I had to teach her things that made it seem like for the first time in her life, she was prey in a world of predators. But I did it. Think about it. I taught her how to park her car in the light by the door, how to always walk down the middle of the street, not the sidewalk, how to cover her cup. She was going to college. Don't drink from the red Solo cup. How to dress, how not to dress, what shoes to wear, cluing her into the codes she might unintentionally send signals to the predators that she is vulnerable. And then if she is victimized, she'll be told she was naive to think she could wear that skirt or those shoes and that she was asking for trouble. We're not safe. We don't move through the world with the same ease as men. We don't swagger, relax, take up space, make loud noises, or have the luxury of physically roughhousing with our friends or anyone without judgment. And we can't make the smallest mistake without being blamed for becoming the victim of physical, mental, verbal, or financial abuse. As we progress inch by inch forward in the world of creating a new level of safety for all people, including women, we will free ourselves to the highest level of participation in society. As I come to the end of my storytelling today, I realize that so far I've talked about business, society, and clothes, and shoes. My mother's shoes that click, click, click across the linoleum. She's trying to play a part in a world that she will soon shed. the conflicting goals, the beautiful spinning conflict of being a woman in a man's world, and it conjures up this old phrase, backwards in high heels. Backwards in high heels. Growing up as my mother's daughter, this was a funny comeback for when I saw the glass half empty, when I was complaining about the world. I was a dancer, not an athlete, obviously. So it was meant to have special meaning for me, but it was also meant to condition me to accept that things would be harder, damn near impossible. That women were to smile and accept it and just excel. Give Gene Kelly the glory while Ginger Rogers dances backwards in high heels. I'm kind of pissed about this. It gave me an edge of anger and resentment pretty much my whole life. I've never resented men. I just want what they have. I want to dance forward in comfortable shoes with flair and confidence and assertion. My professional career as a woman has been pretty good. Actually, it's been great. So I say that, even though I take it for granted that, of course, I have suffered sexual harassment, objectification, power over situations. My experience has been that women my age just don't talk about it. It's just the wallpaper of our lives. We know it wasn't as bad for us as it was for our mothers, and we hope and pray it's better for our daughters. But we did experience those hardships. I danced backwards in high heels and found some wonderful men, some wonderful women to work with and for, and with whom we have risen together. And during the last 20 years, when I finally had a modicum of power as the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce, I was confident my mantra of woman-forward leadership, preaching about work-life balance, setting an example of child-friendly workplaces, and unabashedly spreading the word that the world has changed for women in the workplace. It's the assumptive close, they call it in sales. Last story is from 10 or 15 years ago. I had 2 little kids, and I had suffered yet another Thursday morning, 8 a.m. board meeting of my own board. When I said to that largely male-dominated board still back then, listen, I need to move this meeting to 12 noon over lunch. We are doing business. Let's do it during business hours. These 8 a.m. meetings are too hard for women who are taking littles to daycare or preschool or school. It's too stressful and it's too unnecessary. The men around the table shrugged, nodding their approval. One woman on the board, she was the beloved, awesome, powerful director of the airport, was amazed. She placed her palms on the table in front of her, leaned in, dropped her jaw, and said in astonishment, I make the motion. And I can't believe I suffered for 20 years of 8 a.m. meetings, when all I had to do was ask. Ladies, let's ask. Let's rise together. Let's change the meetings. Let's do our work. Let's lean into leadership. Let's use our best skills, which may be different than those skills in the past. Let's nurture and listen and be creative and collaborate and feel and cry and stomp our feet and pound the table when necessary. Let's trust ourselves to do it differently and better, and recognizing each other the amazing way we work. Not just as women in business, but as storytellers. So that each and every one of us from every generation and facing every challenge can level up in this beautiful, scary, exciting world of work and community rising together. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, for that motivational, inspiring story. I That was lovely. Now I'd like to move into our panel speaking, and with that, I'd like to introduce our panel, comprised of women professionals in variety of stages in their careers. Nina Green. Nina is our vice president of our newly formed clinical and diagnostics division. It's kind of a mouthful. It's a mouthful. We have Melissa Lallam, senior manager of content production for LinkedIn. Carolina Zapata. Now this one's a real tongue twister now. She is our new director of process development, quality control, and quality engineering here at Agilent. I'd just like to state that both Carolina and Nina have taken on new and additional responsibilities very recently, in these past month for Nina and weeks for Carolina. So it's truly a testament that, today I think celebrating their accomplishments is awesome. Unfortunately, Lorena is not going to be able to join us. So with that, I would like to welcome back Kristen, who's going to moderate the panel discussion.
Thank you so much. I cannot wait to dive in with these amazing women who each have a unique perspective and a wealth of knowledge and experience. We're going to talk about leadership, mentorship, and the evolving space of technology. And I want to start right in by looking back at your career journeys. Can you share how you got to where you are today? Was there a pivotal moment that changed things, an aha moment, anything that significantly shaped your leadership paths? And I'll start with Nina.
Right. Can you hear me? I would have to say, thinking about this question, it's about saying yes to opportunities, especially when it's scary, right? We tend to overthink whether we're qualified, whether we're ready, whether we compare to somebody else who might be applying for this opportunity or this role. We need to stop doing that. We are plenty ready, right? And I would say not overthinking. So when I was with Quest Diagnostics for 20 years, I did not realize what was happening, but I'm very fortunate it did happen. The CEO kept tapping me on the shoulder and sending me to the broken businesses in the company, the ones that were underperforming either financially or from a quality perspective, or just gone through a big merger and acquisition and the culture was broken. I thought he was just, there to help me with my career. What turned out was that nobody else would take those roles. I did not find that out till later. And it's a good thing I didn't, because I probably would have said no. But that's why I'm saying don't overthink things. I did not have a formal career plan. I seized opportunities. So when some opportunity presents itself, take it. Worst thing that can happen, you don't like it, but you've tried something new. You've learned something from it. Every experience is good experience. Sometimes the most difficult experiences are the best experience because you learn the hard way. But that forms you and shapes you for what's yet to come.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Melissa, the Chamber is very interested in the whole technology sector in Carpinteria, so thank you for being a neighbor and coming in to Agilent today.
Thanks for having
To
me.
speak
I have to
from
walk up the
LinkedIn.
hill.
Yeah.
My steps. That's important.
Yeah.
So a little fact about me. If you scroll to the very, very end of my LinkedIn profile, you see how I started my career. I was a sports writer.
Ah.
All I ever wanted to do be from the time I was 14. My dad wanted me to be an engineer because I was really good at math. Nope, I'm going to be a sports writer. And I did it. This is in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. Guess what? There weren't very many women in sports writing, and that was back when it was really controversial. Are you going to get in the locker room? No, thank you. But I didn't think that much about it. Fortunately, I had an amazing mother as well, who just be confident. And unbeknownst to me, I was confident and I had to shed a lot of fear early in my career. And never confidence and arrogance, two things to kind of work out as you are figuring who you are out. And the confident piece turned out to be a blessing because in leadership, often you tap into that. So I think that it started there. So I was a journalist and I led newsrooms. I was the managing editor of the LA Daily News. And I left media in 2008 when it was imploding. And I was fortunate, I got to go to academia and get another start. And I think that's when, for me, I got to discover I loved working with students. I loved education. And I love the mentorship piece. So that might be kind of, I love the questions, like just stepping back, like when was the moment that it all came together with leadership? I had the confidence. I could run people, but then the mentorship piece really just really filled me up. So I've been at LinkedIn for 10 years. I came on as an individual contributor and immediately they were like, oh, you've got a management background. Guess what? No one wants to manage. I was like, just give me a little time. I want to learn the role. I want to just really have a foundation in it. My colleagues will respect me. And then I went into management. So
Wow,
it's been fun.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's great. What about you, Carolina?
So I started very early on in more technical roles. Actually, I started in R&D, working on transplant diagnostics. And when I started, I thought I'm gonna stay in the lab forever. I love it here. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can just do my work and go home. But I realized that wasn't what was most fulfilling about my job. What was most fulfilling about my job was working with teams and actually coming together to solve bigger problems. And that's what caused that moment for me is like, I don't want, even though I am introverted, I don't want to work alone. I love working with people and I love coming up with diverse ideas and new things and solving challenges with my team. So,
Makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's talk a little bit more about mentorship. And do you want to talk about that, Carolina? You said you liked working with teams and bringing people up. Mentorship has played a vital role in a lot of people's career development. Can you share how mentorship has influenced your growth both as a mentee or a mentor or both? And one of the most valuable lessons you learned from that?
yeah. So I think for me, the most valuable lesson that I've learned from mentor, like being a mentee, has been to constantly open myself up to new ideas and to always be learning. So I'm never going to know everything and I shouldn't expect that for myself. I think that was a hard lesson for me because coming from a technical world, I thought I have to know everything or I'm never going to be a good manager. I'm never going to be a good leader. I'm never going to be a good coach. And coming to the realization that no, I don't need to know everything. I need to know how to work with my team to come up with solutions. That's why they're here. Otherwise, it's just me alone.
Wonderful. Melissa?
So I just lost my mentor in the fall. He was the editor of the newspaper, and I will tell you, I'm in my 50s. Happy to talk about any of that. I still went to him for advice. He was my sounding board. Age has nothing to do with it, right? He was passionate. He was inspiring. He was bombastic, but he always told the truth. And that really made a huge impression on me. And there was transparency there for better or for worse. And in a newsroom, there's not a lot of time to make good decisions always, or to make your decisions. You just kind of have to act and go with it. And so it teaches you to be very clear and very direct. And Ron was always that for everyone, but he was compassionate about it. And so I learned so much from observing that. You learn a ton from observing great leaders and really bad leaders, but he just that clear and direct piece I took. I think if you asked anyone on my team or at LinkedIn, what I'm known for is, well, she always tells it like it is. But I hope I do it in a way that's kind. I always say clear is kind. I'm never going to give you the compliment sandwich ever. I don't believe in it. Let's just talk real, and then you tell me what's real too. And I do get to mentor quite a number of people. In fact, I just wrapped up mentoring a team member in India, and I thought when I got that assignment, I said I would be open to a global match, and I'm like, really, 12 and a half hours apart? Are you kidding? So we're, he's ending his day, I'm starting my day really early. My husband's like, what are you doing getting up like this? Oh my gosh, I learned so much from him. That's the beauty of the mentorship piece that I think you're talking about, is that you have to open yourself up as the mentor. You're going to learn as much from the mentee. So.
Wonderful. Nina?
So to Melissa's point, wisdom and mentoring is all around you, everywhere. It does not have to be a formal relationship. It's great to have a formal relationship, and times in your career you may be able to establish that, and that's a gift. But it's everywhere. Watch, listen, see the role models that you want to emulate, and especially see the role models you do not want to emulate. That's where I've learned the most. When I talked about the CEO of Quest, who he was mentoring me. He didn't come up and say, I'm mentoring you, but he was doing what he thought was right for the business. Oh, I found somebody who's eager to learn and is curious and doesn't say no to things that are challenging, then goes and does it and then learns something new and then leverages that again. So as a smart business person, he tapped into the talent. When I do mentor people, to your point, Melissa, I learn just as much. I know you guys hear that all the time and you don't think it's true. The person who is mentoring you learns just as much, if not more, in about everything, not just about you, but it's reflected back, right? When we say words of wisdom because we're older, and wisdom does come with time, right? And with experience. So be proud of having wisdom and having time in the saddle, as I call it. But know that when you want to ask somebody a question, whether you want them to formally be your mentor or you just want to ask them, how did you do this? Or why did you do that? Do it. Melissa and I were also saying, no one's going to say no when you ask them to talk about themselves. Come on, really? To share, oh, you're so wise, can you share something? I've never known anyone to say no for that. And then the last thing on mentoring is I have never had to coach a woman on being overconfident, okay? Be confident in yourself. Know what you know. And one of the tools I use when I get nervous going into a new situation, I reflect back on things that I've done in the past, right? To prove to myself, and that little monkey gremlin that plays in our heads from time to time that says we're not good enough, oh, I'm scared, I can't do this. You've done it. You've done it in some way or form in the past. You're just going to do it again with some new dimensions to it. But be courageous, be confident, and know what you know.
Wonderful. Oh, I'm loving all of this. I'm going to move us on to talking about early in your career. We have a few people in the audience who are just starting their careers. Is there anything the three of you can share that you wish someone had told you about leadership that you had to instead learn through experience? You want to start? Sure.
For me, it's building trusted relationships, sincere relationships with people, not because you think you're going to need them someday, but you actually will, when you least expect it. People are our purpose. People are why we have a business. If we didn't have people, we would just have buildings with equipment in them. We wouldn't be having a business. And a lot of people, they don't realize that. So like when Melissa's talking about treating people with respect, right? And not having to know everything all the time, like Carolina said. When you have trusted relationships with people, you will learn everything that you need to learn. How many of you in this room have had me come up to you and ask you questions? How did you do this? How is this happening? Why is this happening? This is how I fill my knowledge cup every single day. Melissa and I also talked about being curious, right? And you talked about it too, don't let people tell you that you can't ask so many questions. I have actually been told that before. So I took the feedback and I realized sometimes when I was asking questions, people could feel a little threatened. They could feel like I was micromanaging them. So it's the way you approach them. But getting back to the original point, when you build real relationships with people, they will do anything for you and with you, and then you will have a team. I just stepped into a new big role that was unexpected, but I get my energy from the people who I know are gonna support me here. So when I come up and give you a hug, it's not just because I want you to feel good, it's because I need a hug. Because I'm climbing a mountain and I'm not doing it by myself. And you guys all need to be with me because you are my trusted advisors. You are my trusted partners. And we all get there together. I thought of a quote when Kristen was talking about it. Madeleine Albright, the first woman Secretary of State, she said, and I will never forget this, there's a special place in hell for women who do not help other women.
Mic drop.
Carolina actually touched on my main thing is you do not have to know everything. And in fact, well, what goes hand in hand with this is always admit when you're wrong, especially as a leader, because it builds trust, flat out. And I might know an answer from time to time and say, well, what do you think? I'd rather hear what you think. So it just being a little bit vulnerable for people, genuinely vulnerable, right? Just builds trust and people will talk to you. And I find that my boss is funny. He'll say to me, oh, this is happening. I'm gonna find out something. And I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that last week. And he's like, how do you know everything before I tell you? And I said, I don't go out and ask. I said, people just want to tell me things. They want to talk to me. They trust me. I'm going to keep it. We call it the vault. Keep it in the vault. The other thing, this is so silly, but just know people's names. Know every single person's name. Make eye contact with them every day. Say hi. And I know that sounds basic, but gosh, you never know what's going to come out of it. It leads to those networks. It leads to just meeting other people and starting those conversations. I, for one, am so happy to be back in the office for that reason alone, of just running across to everyone. So.
Love it.
Mine is, it might sound hokey, but it's be yourself, like be authentically yourself, because you can't be anybody else. And that actually, it took me a long time to realize that. It's kind of, sometimes I think on it, I'm like, oh, it's kind of embarrassing that it took me this long to feel comfortable in my own skin. But it kind of goes back to those things of people telling you you're too loud or, you're asking too many questions, right? And letting that get to you. Don't let those things get to you, always be authentically yourself because you cannot literally be anybody else. It's okay to take in tools that help you overcome certain fears or adapt new skills, but at the end of the day, accept yourself.
Well said.
This is all so good. I wish I had a pen up here. I want to write it all down because I am learning and I agree with so much of what you said. All three of you. I'm thinking of that. I bet we've all got a moment in our mind where we were told something. Mine was, I'd just given this passionate, long explanation of something, and the man I was sort of selling it to said, you're going to have to bullet point this for me. And I went, no. Sorry, you got to hear the whole thing. Okay, so let's talk about the future. Looking ahead, what excites you most about the future of leadership in your industry? What emerging challenges do you think the next generation of leaders should start preparing for now? Just a little question of, predict the future, give us all a roadmap, and Sure, start, Carolina.
So we worked in science and technology, and I see those things moving so fast. So in the future of leadership, the part I don't see going away, even though we can use tools like AI, right, to become faster, automation, to do things better. What doesn't go away is the human-centric piece. So I think more than ever, building connections with people, building authentic connections with people still remains the core of leadership. and that's never gonna go away.
Wonderful.
Great answer. So true. I'm gonna bring up the AI piece because
Yeah.
I have to. A lot of people, I'm coaching a lot of my friends' kids right now as they're graduating from college and on just getting a job. What should their LinkedIn profile have? What should they be doing? Is AI gonna take my job? I'm like, no, and yes. But no, it's gonna complement your job if you're doing it right. And so I'm excited about what we're building right now. It's been so fun. I've probably for the last 8 months been on what is called an AI powered role play project. And it's where people can practice their human centric skills safely, right? With an AI and then get feedback and get recommended courses to take. So I'm super excited how we complement human skills and we're trying to push it into other places. And I just, the need for the compassionate part, the human part isn't going to go away, but we do have to embrace that piece that's going to just change how we work. Goes back to the no fear, right? Look for change in everything you do. I like change. I think it makes my team a little bit like, oh, really? Here you go. But, it keeps it fresh. And we learn as you go.
I would say even before AI and even before right now, be nimble, be flexible, be open to change. But the speed with which change is happening in technology and not just AI, but in science, in the cancer work that we do in a good way, right? It's an exciting way. But trying to keep up with the pace is it's daunting. It is daunting. So if there are tools you can use them. Try to be as forward-looking as you can so that you're more proactive than reactive. These are not easy things, but you'll see a lot of this advice building on itself. If you have good relationships with people who know things that you don't know, they will keep you informed because you can't go out and educate yourself on everything. So build that network around you, and not just the networking network trying to get a new job. Your work family. I mean, to me, these are the people who have your best interests at heart. When you build these relationships and you deliver for your colleagues will deliver for you. And that is how you have success in business. It's also how you have success personally too, right? Is being a trusted partner and friend or family member. But the nimbleness and the speed, honestly, the older I get, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just me because I'm older. But I mean, you see it, the technology and change is so exciting. It's not scary to me, but it's scary like how are we gonna keep up and how are we gonna, plan our strategy in our businesses with all of this change. The opposite would be worse, right? Stagnation is worse. So if we have a choice between, the fast-paced future and nothing changing, I will take, like Melissa says, the change, right? But we're the guardians of keeping it safe, keeping people safe, keeping patients safe, and you got to embrace it, but count on your network to keep you informed.
This has been an enriching discussion really about leadership, but hearing it from three powerful women has given us the lens to hear it through leading as women. Because really every tenet that you've described is something that we all are striving for in leadership, but our women-focused skills do give us sometimes an edge in some of these arenas. Before you go, we didn't warn you of this, but if there was a burning question or two from the audience, I would be happy to take those as we're about to wrap up here. Anybody bold enough with a question? No.
Yes.
Yes.
I would ask, what was your biggest challenge and how did you overcome that in your career growth?
Mine was confidence when I was young. The little monkey and the gremlin that runs through your head, right? I think we all have it. Everybody I've ever talked to that would admit having it, it's your worst enemy. But it's human nature. So it's never gonna go away, right? It's part of all of us as humans. But when you play to it and listen to it too much, right? There's a piece that Chris was saying about knowing when you're not safe, right? So you don't want to turn off that fear knob because you do need to stay safe, either psychologically or physically. But when it's self-inflicted, I can't do this, I shouldn't do this, somebody else is more qualified. Oh, if I could have dampened that monkey, a long time ago. Because it's an inner battle. It's not real. It's not real. People are not thinking about you like that, right? So listen to your colleagues when they give you feedback that's positive, hear it, remember it, reflect on it. I can do this. When they give you constructive feedback, hear that too, and process it and adapt, right?
That is a great answer. And I can remember being told this when I was younger as well. Just have more confidence, have more confidence. And I want to add to everything you said and say, you can't fake it. What she's saying is, don't fake that you're confident if you're not. Find a way to be confident. Take in more information, add it to the experience that you have, and find the places that you're confident and act on that.
I'm gonna go a totally different direction.
Okay.
I have 2 kids, and I will say that I found the pull between being the mom and being the person at work, the leader at work. It was interesting, and I find my husband is wonderful, fantastic, and we finally came to, after the second kid, we came to the conclusion. I'm like, I don't want to be home with these kids. Sorry, I love them. But I felt so bad about admitting that, and we agreed he'd be the more primary caregiver, and I would be the worker. And there were times when I missed practice, and trust me, he got a lot of comments, but this solidified my decision. I live in Ventura. I did go to UCSB though. Yay, go Gauchos. I took my youngest out. We were on a walk out to the mouth of the harbor. And I don't know how old he was, like maybe 5, 6, whatever. And my oldest, I don't know where she was. And I said, oh gosh, Kelly. Notice that good name for my boy, Kelly. And I said, oh gosh, Kelly, look. I see 2 dolphins playing. I think it's a mommy and a baby. And he goes, no. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, that's a daddy and the baby. Oh. Everyone knows daddies raise the babies and mommies go to work. Mission accomplished.
Woohoo!
Anyway, I decided I had to let go of some of that and never look back.
Awesome. Oh, I love it.
I think for me, it's to be scared and do it anyways.
Yeah.
So it's still along the lines of self-doubt. It's like, even up here, I'm nervous, but be scared and do it anyways, right? It's not me doing it alone. I have a support system. I have my team. I've taken on projects where I walked in not knowing at all what I was going to be doing or how I was going to be solving anything. But I took on the challenge anyways, and in those moments, that's where you experience the biggest amount of growth. And so, yeah, for me, it was that moment. Be scared, do it anyway.
Thank you.
I love it. Awesome. This is so wonderful. Oh, because it's Anne. Yes. One last question. No, that's okay. Yeah.
But if you were a high school student today who lived through COVID and now is in high school and has so many options of things to do and ways to choices to make, how would you not be overwhelmed with that, and what advice might you have for a young high school student?
Which one of you, because we're just about at time, who wants to answer? Do it.
Oh my gosh. I just was talking to our VP of product about this because we both have kids, and I am doing this with my own. Both go to liberal arts schools. One is a rhetoric and media studies major, which is communications, and the other one is a creative writing major. So I'm like, oh, but I'm also like, my dad didn't make me get into engineering, and he thought I should. So things will work out. I will say, I tend to step back with the LinkedIn, all the data that's in front of us. First of all, we just did a workforce report. 70% of the folks surveyed want more leadership training. That is the most important thing that's coming out of it. So that was good news to me because that's human, right? I really feel like healthcare is not, that's only going to, the need is only going to increase, all the rules that go along with it. And I keep moving, like even my oldest, I'm like, what if you got a job in the communications office with, some healthcare group in Portland. I'm like, think about what the longevity is, where your skills are gonna continue to play out. So everything everyone here is doing fits in with that model too. I will say, I just read a report yesterday that mentioned there's getting to be a drop off in entry-level software engineer roles. Not surprising with AI, right? It's gonna balance out, but you're seeing these shifts happen, and then we're all watching things unfold with the federal government. It's a moment in time, but the workforce is shifting. So I kind of lock into what's always going to be needed, right? Healthcare.
Perfect. And I know we have some people in healthcare. We're standing in a healthcare industry and a couple of high schoolers who are interested in that. Thank you for being an amazing panel. I learned a lot, and you have been open and curious and vulnerable, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. That was amazing, great stories. Thank you for sharing. And I want to thank everyone for attending today. I hope you all got out of this today as much as I got, as I did. A couple announcements for you. One, on the table over there, we have these round circle things that has a prompt on it. You're more than welcome to take it, fill it out, and we're going to put a cork board up here and with some tacks and kind of tack it on there. Just some of your thoughts about women's equality. And then we are going to, since this is Women's History Month as well, on the 27th, we're going to have a Women at Agilent happy hour at Rincon Brewery. We're still kind of planning that and getting some details. So keep an eye out on your emails for, hitting Rincon, having a beer, and just kind of networking and being together. So once again, I really want to thank you all for coming out. Thank you, Kristen. That was an awesome story. Really loved it. And our panel, truly amazing, and it's been an incredible afternoon. So thank you all very much, and you can spend some time networking. And thank you.